Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're starting a new Sefer, Sefer Shmois in the Ben Ashri. Tonight, Yud Gimel Teves is also the yard site of the Ben Ashri. Rabbi Yitzchak HaKoyen Ben Osher Anshel Hoberman, also known as the Tzaddik Miranana. We're not going to focus too much on his autobiography. If you want to know more in depth about his history, about his life, Rabbi Daniel Gladstein has an interesting share on it. Rabbi Daniel Gladstein's family had a kesher with the Tzaddik Miranana, so he's an expert and he knows much more, and it's worth it, it's kedai to listen to his share. But not to say anything would be a zilzul to the covet of the Tzaddik. The Tzaddik was born in a town called Bilgoria around 1896, more than 100 years ago. He died, as we explained, 1977, Yud Gimel Teves. He was an awesome Talmud Chacham, a tremendous Mekubal, a masmid. Even in his young age, he would sit and learn for 18 hours straight without even getting up. So much so that Rav Aaron Leib, when he was asked about the Tzaddik Miranana, he said it's probably that he has Gilui Elio. And one of the main reasons Rav Aaron Leib said, Efsher, maybe, was because he was a tremendous masmid. Rabbi Yitzchak HaKoyen lived in tremendous poverty. He lost vision in one of his eyes. He went through, in World War II, he lived in Siberia under very difficult circumstances. Even though he found favor in the eyes of the Russian commandant over there, he still had a very difficult life until he moved to Ranana. And as we mentioned, even in Ranana, where he was respected, he lived in abject poverty. Unfortunately, he had no children, so his Sefer is his children, and he writes in the beginning of his Sefarim that anybody that learns on the Sefer, especially if he repeats it over, he will be a Melis Yosher for them. What better way to honor the Tzaddik, especially on his yard site, to learn from his Torah, that it should be a continuation of his memory, that he's still alive. So we're going to begin Parshat Shemot, the first piece. We're going to learn a few pieces. As we mentioned prior, some of the pieces deal in deep Kabbalistic ideas, which is above my understanding, but sometimes it's good just to talk about it, especially the first piece, which, as we're going to see at the end of the first piece, I think is Nagea Lamaisa to the Tzaddik Miranana. Ve'ele shmois b'nei Yisroel haboy Mitzrayim es Yaakov ishu beisai. Diktiku ha-mefarshim. The Ben Ashri says the mefarshim are medayik in the word haboim. Haboim is present. They're coming now. So everybody says, what do you mean they're coming now? They came at least 17 years before, and probably even more, because this is talking about the time period where all the Shvatim already passed away. So what does it mean they came now? They've been here for almost 100 years. Lashon Haiva, it's a Lashon of present. V'yeshleim api hayidua. The Shem HaKadosh Havaya Baruch Hu, the name of Hashem of Havaya, Hey Vav Yud Kei, B'dalad Miluov, which means if you spell out each letter full, for example, Yud can also be spelled Yud Vav Dalad. The first Hey could also be Hey Yud. Vav could be Vav Aleph Vav. That's called you spell it out in every letter in the Miluim in its fullness. Gematria Chen has the Gematria of 58. If you spell out Yud K Vav K, now really it's Yud Hey, but we don't want to say it, comes out to 58. With that understanding, we can understand the pasuk in the following manner. Ve'ele Shmois hakdoshim. When it says Ve'ele Shmois, refers to the holy names of Hashem. Mimiyachadam umemalam. Who fills them up? Who makes them whole? Who makes Hashem's name whole? We know that Hashem's name is not whole, either because of Amalek, because of the Nitzotzis that have fallen. Who makes them whole? B'nei Yisroel Hasadikim. Through the Maisim Toivim and through the learning, they are able to make Hashem's name whole and full. Haboim, right? Which means B'nei Yisroel Haboim. The word Haboim also has the Gematria of 58, which is Dalet Hamilun, which we just explained, is the Gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is also 58, which is Chen. Mitzrayim, Gematria Shechina. So, Eile Shmois, these names, then in order to get full, how do they get full? B'nei Yisrael Haboim, that are filling the names of Hashem, Mitzrayim, which refers to the Shechina HaKdosha. Hainu, she'osim yichud havaya alav daled zun kodesh baruch hu v'shechinte. One of the things that our job is to do, and this is obviously on a high Kabbalistic idea, there are mekubalim that are known as mechavnim. They're able to be mechavin certain combinations of Hashem's name to create what's called a yichud. This is above my understanding. But for us, when we do mitzvahs and we learn Torah, we combine certain names of Hashem, even without having high Kabbalistic ideas. Valkein ksiv b'loshen hoiva. That's why it says in present, because presently, the Bnei Yisrael, the tzaddikim, are presently fulfilling and filling the name of Hashem. The Tamid Avodas Mikach, they're always avodas that. Shaydei Torah utfilo shalahem miyachadim umamalash shemes hakedoshim. Right? The Torah of a tzaddik who's pure and kadosh and is l'shem shemayim affects tremendous shefa in this world by being miyachad the name of Hashem. Omnon es limud haTorah akdosha and his vatus b'chapes osios through the word, through learning Torah of es. So if you learn the pasuk as follows, ve'ele shmos, these are the names that Klal Yisroel fills es through the learning of the Torah. That's very good, but what about the regular people, the pshutei am? Not everybody is on a high level that they can do this. Yaakov, which refers to pshutei am, as we know that Yaakov is different than Yisroel. Ish ubeisei ba'u. What does it mean, ish ubeisei ba'u? What's it coming to teach us? So according to the way the Ben Ashri explained this pasuk, imechanchen umadrichim games beisam. If a person who, let's say, is not on a high level of a tzaddik, even an am arts, but he teaches and he's mechanech his children to go in the derech of the Torah Kedosha. He works to be able to send them to school in the hopes that his children will be able to become Talmidei Chachamim. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're doing like tzaddikim. You may not be learning, but you're teaching your children to learn. Rav Yosef, when he used to give shiurim, some of his shiurim were on a high level, and people asked him, the people that would come to him were literally average people. They didn't know anything. So he always used to say, I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to the children. If I teach the parents certain halachas, they'll understand, even if they don't do it, or if they don't fully understand it, that it's something that their children have to learn. And he said, in his old age, that the people that he spoke to 50, 60, 70 years ago, they didn't know what he was talking about. Today, their grandchildren are Rabbanim and Dayanim. So he said, you see what I was doing was correct. So alachas kam v'kama, if you have parents who may not be on the highest level, or even on an average level, but they're mechanech their children, l'kayim Torah HaKdosha, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is also choshev that they are on the level of tzaddikim. There's a yichud and a combination, a connection of all the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'siris HaKdushos, and all the different siris, k'tiksiv ki yedativ, asiyosiv l'mechaber miyachad shemes HaKdoshim v'siris HaKdoshos. When we learn Torah and we do mitzvahs, we are miyached certain olamas together. When we speak out Torah, that's malchus, and when we do tzedakah, there's all different maisim tovim, chesed, that all has tremendous effects in the upper worlds. Ube'ezes chus, because you are commanding your family to do it. Hare, devtiach Hashem demisha mechanech banav b'nei beisai lelechas b'darach Hashem choshev katzadikim gemurim. Somebody who teaches his family to walk in the ways of Hashem are considered like tzaddikim kedemurim. And now comes a very poignant line, which is one of the reasons that I chose to learn this, even though it discusses very Kabbalistic ideas. V'hi ratzon, he says, may it be the will of Hashem, sheniska lezeh. So the truth of the matter is, we all are Talmidim of the Ben Ashri. We're all learning his Torah, and we're all becoming better Yidden through his Torah, through his Chidushim, and through that, may he be zoichet to have a continuous aliyah in Shemayim. We're continuing the next piece, same idea, same pasuk. Elish Shmos Bnei Yisroel Abai Mitzrayim. Es Yaakov Ishu Beisei Bo. Hikshu Mefarshim. The Mefarshim ask, his chil be Yisrael. The pasuk started talking about Bnei Yisrael, And then V'siyam b'Yaakov. Then it says Es Yaakov. Why didn't it say Es Yisroel? Ishu Beisoy. Or Ve'el Shmois b'nei Yaakov. Then it says Os Yesh L'Daktek Hischil HaBoim. Like we mentioned before, it started the pasuk saying they're coming now, in the present tense. And then it says Bo'u, they came, in the past tense. So which one is it? Are they coming now, or did they come before? The whole Sefira Yesh L'Shem Yidua. Every Sefira has its name, right? There's 10 Sefiros. Each Sefira has its own name. Like we know when we say Sefira Sa'omer, if you say the Yihiratzon, every day has a different Sefira for the week. There are 7 weeks, 7 Sefiros, and every day there's a different Sefira. There's that combination of Chesed Shebechesed, Gvur Shebechesed, Hoid Shebehoid, so on and so forth. With that understanding, we'll explain the pasuk as follows, says Ben Moshe. The Sefiros HaKadoshas Shemamshichim B'nei Yisroel, the Sefiros HaKadoshas that Klal Yisrael is mamshich, they draw down into this world, Haboim, u'mamshichim oisem Mitzrayim, gematria shchina. The Bnei Yisrael mamshichim Sefiros HaKadoshas devav kitzavis b'malchus. Klal Yisrael, through learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and doing chesed, they draw Kedusha into this world. How do they do that? How are they able to draw down Shef into this world? So if you read the pasuk, it says Ve'elu Shmos Bnei Yisrael. These are the names of Bnei Yisrael. Which names? The names of the Sefiros. Haboim Mitzrayim, that the Klal Yisrael draws into the Shechina. How? Through the learning of the Torah. Aleph through Taf. They learned in Torah Seina Kedosha. And it vatas b'chav beis Osiyos, that's brought by the 22 Osiyos, may Aleph through Taf. Yaakov, Aidei Hachzikim b'midas Hanova. In addition, one of the important character traits is that we have Anova, humbleness, v'shiflish. Ish ubeisei bo'u. What's about the last 3 words? Gematria Tov Shin Mem Dalet. This is also a secret that the Baba Sali spoke about with reference to Mashiach. That's not the topic of this year, but Tov Shin Mem Dalet is a very important number. Rosh Tevis, which is also the same Rosh Tevis, Torah Shlema, or Torah Shem Malchus Mem Dalet. This hints to, by learning Torah and being an Onav, we have the ability, Klal Yisrael has the ability to bring down Shefa from the Sefiros into the Shechina, into this world. We're now going to skip a few pieces, and we're going to learn another very interesting piece. Again, using the same pasuk in the Derech HaRemes. Roshe v'soife tevis. If you take the first letters of Ve'ela, Shmois, B'nei Yisrael, Habai Mitzrayim, and you take the last letters, right? So it's Vav, Shin, Beis, Yud, Hey, Mem. That's the Roshe tevis. Hey, Tav, Yud, Lamed, Mem, Soy, Fis, and Hey. It spells out the words Shuveyim, Kasha, Mila. Hakavana. What does this mean? The fact that Yosef did Mila to the Mitzrayim, don't think that it was just, like you take a little scissor and you cut somebody. No, there was actually, it did a tremendous thing for them. Since they had the Koyach HaMila, even though they didn't do it Lishma, they only did it because if they didn't do it, they wouldn't have gotten food. It still didn't affect them. Look in the Pri-Eitz Chaim, which is Reb Chaim Vital, and other Mekubalim, shekasu kama dvarim shenes avu ayidei zeh, certain things that came about because they now had the ois bris. We know that the Yishmaelim have tremendous shefa because they did the bris. Yishmael has a tremendous koyach because he did the bris. Now, ultimately, he doesn't do the bris the right way, like we do it, priya or mila or priya, but lamaisa they do the bris, and because of that, they get certain shefa that has come through them. Now, if you look at the words, the second letters of each word, the Ben Ashri says it's going to teach us a special thing. Now, Ve'ela Shmois B'nei, so if you look at the second letter of every word, so the second letter of Ve'ela is Aleph, the second letter of Shmois is Mem, the second letter of the word B'nei is Nun, spells out the word Amen. Kolomer, the Afal Pikain, even though the Mitzrayim had a special koyach of Mila, Zochu Shem B'nei Yisrael Lasis Yichud Zun, which is Gematri Amen. Even still, Klal Yisrael was able to reach a higher level than them, right? Through Amen. The next words, Yisroel haboy Mitzrayim, the second letters of Yisroel haboy Mitzrayim, is Shin Beis Tzadik. Rosh Tevos, Sham Biru Tzadikim, Ki Yidua, Sham in Mitzrayim, Sha'izeh Hoysa Kol HaGolos Levar Nitzotzos Kedushas. We've mentioned this many times. This is a Arizal, famous Indian in Mekubalim, that Mitzrayim, which was the Ervas HaOretz, the most tumadika place in the whole world, had the strongest and deepest concentration of Nitzotzos that came about through Chet Adam Rishon, through the Dor HaMabel, the Dor HaFloga, all ended up in Mitzrayim. And the object of the Gullus, the purpose of the Gullus there was to take them out. And as we explained in the prior share, those neshamas, as they were taken out, came into Gufim. That's how we got to the number 600,000. Kiddush Hazeh, Haisa Kol HaGolos, Levar Nitzotzos Kedushas. Es Yaakov Ishu Beisoi, Rosh Tevos Eishes Eiv, refers to the wife of Eiv, which is referring to, according to one Shita, Dinah. Now, the Ben Ashi doesn't explain what connection this has to do with the pasuk. He just says that this is a remez to Eishes Dinah. Let's do one more piece. Ve'elu Shmois Gematria Chafashta B'nei Yisrael Haboy Mitzrayim Es Yaakov Ish Kosav HaChidusha Harim. The Sefer Haschos, the Chidusha Harim, who the Ben La'ashri didn't know per se because he lived before him, but Ben Ashi was very close with the Beis Yisrael of Ger. The Beis Yisrael of Ger had tremendous covered for the Ben La'ashri, and they passed away in very close proximity to each other in time-wise. That he says the Sefer Tevos of the words B'nei Yisrael Haboy Mitzrayim Es Yaakov Ish is Shabbos Milah. That in Mitzrayim we had to have two things, Shabbos and Milah. Eventually we lost both of them. And because of that, Klal Yisrael was able to cry out to Hashem to save them. The Farsh Lahoisav Advar Vakdoshin, the Zeu Shinirmas Gematria Ve'ele Shmois Chafashta, Shebeschus Shmir Shabbos Ubris Kodesh Yigolo. He said, Beschus of keeping Shabbos. Right? We know that Moshe Rabbeinu asked Paroi to give them a day off. And the Beschus, as long as they kept Milah, right? Eventually, most Klal Yisrael did not do bris milah. They had to do it again in order to be able to eventually eat the Korban Pesach. They were zoichet to have the geula, and because of that, even though they had a tremendous and very difficult galus, but it did not affect them spiritually. Shabbos and Milah protected them. If you look at throughout all the galuses, the second we started getting rid of Shabbos and Milah, that's when our downfall began. As opposed to Mitzrayim, Kemat, nobody married a Mitzri, nobody left Klal Yisrael, because why? They had the two Kedushas of Shabbos and Bris. Ve'ele Shmois B'nei Yisrael Haboy Mitzrayim Es Yaakov Ishu Beisei Bo Gematria Bam Yovin Yaakov Mirosh Tzimchason B'Kabbalas Luchais Kosav Yad Yamina Ayin Orachayim HaKadosh U'Beparshas Vayigash Lefi Zeh Yeshlamid Yaakov Vinu Olav Shalom Huchrach L'Redis Mitzrayim. The Ben Lashi has an unbelievable piece over here. He says that Yaakov Avinu had to go down to Mitzrayim. You know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, you have to go down and I will be with you. But nowhere did it say that Klal Yisrael have to come down. Afagav sheyoda shebonav yiyu sham megolos. Yaakov Avinu had to go down even though he knew that Klal Yisrael would have a very difficult galus there. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu tziva isay v'amar loy altira mereida. So Yaakov Avinu had to go down to Mitzrayim because Hashem told him. Al b'nei Yisrael she'aleim lehoya hatzivoy miyichrichim l'kal olagos. Who said they had to go down? Why didn't they go back up? So the Ben Moshe has a beautiful kasha. Yaakov Avinu had to go down to Mitzrayim. We understand. Hashem said, go down, don't be afraid, I'll go with you. But it doesn't say anywhere that Klal Yisrael had to go down. They wanted and they needed to go to Mitzrayim in order to get the Kabbalah Torah. Now we learned in other shiurim, the reason is to get the Nitzotzos, the sparks of Kedusha, to get the 600,000. The Ben Ashri brings a tremendous chiddush here, which is unbelievable. He says no. He says without them going to Mitzrayim, they never would have gotten the Torah. You know why? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu tried to get the Torah from the Malachim, and the Malachim said you can't have it, what was Moshe Rabbeinu's taina? did you go to Mitzrayim? Did Hashem take you out of Mitzrayim? So Klal Yisrael knew that unless they went to Mitzrayim and Hashem took them out, they never would have gotten the Torah, because Moshe Rabbeinu never would have been able to tell them, did you go to Mitzrayim? Did Hashem take you out of Mitzrayim? Did you suffer in Mitzrayim? So even though Klal Yisrael did not have to go, al pi tzivoy, on the commandment, but in order to get the Torah, which is what they wanted, which was our ultimate purpose, they understood that no matter what, they had to go into the Golus of Mitzrayim, which would eventually be a taina that Moshe Rabbeinu would be able to use to take the Torah and bring it down to Klal Yisrael. So you see from here the tremendous secret and the tremendous chiddush that the Ben Ashri teaches us, that even though the Bnei Yisrael did not have to go to Mitzrayim, they went down. Why? For their own will, their own ratzon, in order that Moshe Rabbeinu should have a taina down the road to be able to take the Torah and give it to us by Har Sinai. In the schus of the learning of these pieces, may the neshama of the great tzaddik, Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen ben Osher Anshel Hoberman, have a schus, his neshama, maybe he be a Melech Yosher for us. Thank you.